Linux OTC. Welcome to episode 8. We're your hosts. I'm Bill.
I'm Norbert.
I'm Leo.
Okie dokie. All right,
and
so
I managed to find the browser tab with the video call in it.
what's that?
So,
oh,
yeah.
Oh, you can see me.
Yeah.
I've
Switch
got
away, switch away.
like to get all of this up on these monitors and like keep an eye on it in a way that makes sense and is useful. It's basically I use the Chrome Create
Ew, you already
web
said the
app
wrong
thing.
word. Ugh,
Yeah,
delete that.
well, that's the one we interviewed the developer for Video Ninja on Mintcast, and even he said that Chromium is probably the best option. So
Oh wait, so you say Chrome, but like, do you mean Chrome, like Google Chrome, or you mean like,
No,
I'm using
Chromium.
Vivaldi though?
well, Chromium, just bare
Okay.
bones Chromium. That way I don't
why
have to
not-
use any of their stupid APIs or anything like that.
Why not Vivaldi or Brave?
Well, that's a whole lot of extra weight I don't need. I just need the bare bones. I need the absolute least to bring up this PWA, basically, that I made with Chromium to run Video Ninja. And when you do that, it basically just sets it up like a window all to itself.
Yeah,
So it
you
just
can do-
needs the
you can do
Chromium
those-
infrastructure. Vivaldi's a pretty heavyweight browser. You got a lot of services in there that I just
But
don't
you can
need
do
for
the
that.
web apps with Vivaldi, can't you?
Yeah, well, I don't know. I haven't tried. I just kind of assume that if you've got the Vivaldi process running, that it's got certain things. I just don't know, but I do know that
See,
this is.
so you're saying a lot of things that may or may not be true over here, Bill. You're
Well, I
saying
know this
Vivaldi's
works.
kind of heavyweight.
That's what I know.
Okay.
But I
I'm just
also
in-
know that Chromium has one thing on Vivaldi, and that is that it is open source, and I'm not using any of the closed source bits of Google infrastructure to run this like you might be doing on Vivaldi.
A very common
That I-
argument for Vivaldi is that it's basically Chromium, and Chromium is open source, and only their UI is closed source. But once just a tiny bit of a program is closed source, then the entire thing is considered closed source.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's unfortunate, but inescapable at the same time. I mean, no, I use Chrome, the Google bits of Chrome, when I absolutely can't get something to work in Firefox. But
On one hand, something being closed source is not necessarily bad. On the other hand, there are two things that I prefer to be open source, two things that are running all the time for me, my OS and my browser.
yeah, and
Hold on, wait. Hold on. So you use the Libra kernel?
Well, the proprietary firmware is a...
It's
Well,
closed source and should thus be
I-
considered closed. That's all
I
I'm
was
saying.
I was going to say it's a necessary evil, but maybe not, because we could just...
you can
Well,
do
the-
without
I mean,
the
evil
microcode for
part
your
of-
processor and your if you got Samsung drives, you can do without the firmware that fixes all their stupid problems. And
There's still an evil word in necessary evil. So
you are absolutely right. It's true that there is absolutely if you're going to be somebody that's going to get the most out of the machine that you paid for, then yeah, you're going to have to accept
that you
you're
have to
gonna-
run Windows. I know,
you've got-
Bill. You're correct.
I know. I'm running it right now as we speak. That's a lie.
Gross. You're not. You're not really.
I'm definitely not. It's,
Okay.
It's not running nearly that well. No. I think it's about. You do make choices, don't you? It's like, okay, where am I willing to sacrifice, and where am I not? And you have all these stories in the zeitgeist and everything about Google and all of their egregious things that they've done, so that's what kind of steers people to try to stay off of as much of their platform as possible. Now in my case, I am literally, Steve Seguin says, well, the Chromium has a bit of a better audio video stack in it Now Firefox should work fine, but I'm really just kind of testing it on Chromium. I'm like, okay, well, all right, I'll just use it for just Video Ninja, and then I've got Firefox opened over here looking at the websites that I'm talking about. So that's kind of my compromise.
I was thinking just the other day how there's been a decade-plus-old problem with the audio. I mean, has the audio stack on Linux, or maybe it was always problematic with people.
Get out of here, Norbert. The audio stack in Linux is perfect. It never
complaining
crashes.
about complaining about everything from Alsa to Pulse Audio and even with Pipewire. And I was thinking the other day, how hard would it be
perfect, by the way,
to just port Android's audio stack to Linux? Because throughout many years of using an Android phone, I never really had any problem with audio. So, I mean, it's probably not it's not as complicated because you just have a set of speakers and the headphone jack, and that's it.
And Bluetooth. So are you considering Bluetooth in the equation? Because I think that's where a lot of people have issues.
That's fair. I don't use anything Bluetooth with my laptop or my desktop.
Yeah, so once you get Bluetooth into the mix, then everything just falls down. I think even
I
the
use
main
Bluetooth
players,
every day for my talking headset, and I just don't have the problems. Of course, I've got a pretty high-end phone. I just don't have the problems that some people have reported with it. I don't know if they're holding it wrong, if they need to turn it off back on again. Or
you got to remember that a lot of these people that are having these problems are like using Bluetooth like 4 or 3 or 2 or whatever, like these 10-year-old headphones or whatever, because they still work with newer stacks. And then just if the stacks aren't exactly what the other half expects, then this is where you're going to run into lots of crackling and everything else. So you never know. And then Bluetooth is just not perfect. When you're within 10 feet, it's awesome. For the most part, I guess.
You get the idea it was something somebody came up with, and they never thought that it would be used to the extent that it is. I don't know. Like I said, I don't have the problems that other people do, but I wonder sometimes if it was ever meant to be used for this long for this many things.
Well, you're me now, because I would always say like, well, I don't have those problems you're having with the NVIDIA card. My stuff just works. And then it's because I made the conscious choice to buy something that actually worked.
Right. Well, you get what you pay for, don't you?
Well, no, not really, because you pay a premium for NVIDIA stuff, and then it's still a second-class citizen on Linux. So,
boy, that is improving though, because I've got that NVIDIA. I've had this laptop with an Optimus setup in it with NVIDIA and Intel, and we'll get into the Wayland thing with Norbert here in a minute, but I've had that for probably about 6 years now, and I've kind of watched the evolution of improvement for the Wayland story, the Plasma story, and the NVIDIA story.
But that's kind of like saying, Google's improving. I've seen them with their security story and their privacy story, and it's getting better. But it doesn't matter because I've still got that terrible taste in my mouth from all of that trash that they've done in the prior. So
that was a stretched analogy.
Was it though?
Because
NVIDIA abusing you?
So now I'm picturing my laptop upstairs, like waiting to send my pictures of my kids off to the police. And that.
What?
Well, you knew about this, right? That story in New York Times about Google flagging some guy. This is the whole reason I rage quit as much Google as I can. This is a few months ago. Certainly know about this. The guy that had pictures of his kids. The
bathtub thing.
Yeah,
medical pictures.
They were medical pictures sent off to the doctor, and Google flagged that as inappropriate and probably tantamount to child pornography or whatever. Sent it off to the police. The police are like, what is this? And he ended up being absolved of all of it. But Google said, yeah, no, we're not giving you your Gmail back or your photos or anything else that you've got stored on Google. So
yeah, that's the thing that Apple got in trouble with when they just proposed the idea of like sticking hashes on your phone and then checking it locally or whatever. But they luckily they took a step back from that one. And as far as we know, they're not doing that.
So I talked to my son, who makes music, and incidentally, he make the theme song for our show. And I talked to him about this because he leans on Apple technology heavily. And I was like, so what, from Apple's perspective, what is the thinking on this? What is the thinking when it's been shown that it's probably not the best thing to lean AI or ML up against, at some point a human being ought to be involved. Shouldn't you just kind of leave these things alone? And his opinion was, well, when you don't do anything, you end up allowing everything. And I think Toot Note is kind of running into this problem right now where they're all about, they're one of those, for those not aware, they're one of those email and, I don't know if they've got a cloud service or not, but it's an end-to-end encrypted email that is privacy respecting, and they have absolutely no filters in place to keep people from doing nasty stuff with it, and as a result, they've been mostly filtered out of Google, out of Gmail.
Really?
Yeah, a lot of their email gets refused because it's got the Toot Note, because it's being used by bad actors to send crap from here to there, and Google said, yeah, no. So in some cases, they blocked the entire domain, which, is interesting. It's like there's no middleman on this. You're either all in and it's, earth-scorching practices to keep people safe, or else you're just allowing anything through,
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what the answer is on stuff like that.
Well, it's always somewhere in the middle.
It is. Nobody seems to want to. Because being in the middle means constant resources. Yeah,
it means compromise. It means
does.
that you have to actually come to a decision as to how far you want to go with that, and no one will agree on it. So
there's going to be a lot of nuance involved when you're in the middle, and you got to get human beings involved to actually look at these things and make decisions. So
that's the thing, right? Like we've created this technology as a human race, right? Like we've created this technology that can automate a lot of this task, and instead of putting in the actual money and people and eyes and stuff, we just went with the cheap option and just said, automate it. Yeah. We'll see what happens.
Yep. Well, AI is great. I don't know.
Actually, everything I've said today was written by ChatGPT, so.
A few people have, like, I think Resington at one point started his show with some AI foolery where he had AI imitate one of the, I don't know if it was Phelan or one of the others, and it sounded convincing enough if you hadn't been listening to them for years, but it sounded convincing enough to probably get by. You probably write a whole show with that doggone thing.
Oh, you probably could. But, it would be wrong in some spots, which is
it'd be wrong in a lot of spots. I mean, it feels sometimes like it gets stuff wrong on purpose just to remind people not to be relying on that. One thing we can rely on, though, is FlatHub, and I don't know at what point. I saw a tweet by Jorge, what's the guy that's into Castro. He was sharing the news about the new FlatHub, and the reason I say I don't know how old it is because, Twitter is what it is. Sometimes when I get a notification for a tweet, it's 3 days old already. So, but if you go to flathub.org, there is a brand new layout for this.
I didn't realize that this was previously on the beta.flathub.org version.
Yeah,
I didn't realize they pushed it to
was.
The main one.
The one thing that I still don't see that I wish I did, though, is... So you click on it. Okay, let me make sure I'm not talking out of my hind end. You click on it, and you click on an app that you want on a container or whatever, and you almost... Well, you get links to the project website and translations. You get a link to report issues.
Oh, they give you install stats. That's cool.
Yeah. So I guess this is so much, but this is probably closer to the open source way of handling these things. I don't know what I was kind of hoping for, a social kind of thing here with comments and things, but I guess when I think about it, that's probably never been all that helpful.
I just found Adobe Reader on FlatHub, and it says changes in version 9.5.5 almost 10 years ago. And it has a Ubuntu 10.04 style screenshot.
Huh.
Well, I mean...
What are you doing with Adobe Reader anyway, man?
Yeah, there's so many better things out there. But no, the Adobe Reader is right there on the front page when you open up FlatHub for some reason. Right
Firefox has 2.3 million installs.
Just on FlatHub?
Just on FlatHub. Yeah, this is not Debs or Snap or anything else.
Which are probably even more than the FlatHub installations.
The Snap? Yeah, probably, because Ubuntu is a lot.
Yeah, Ubuntu is relying on the Snap now, but
Chrome has 2.5, which is a bit more.
Gross.
To be fair, Firefox comes pre-installed on a lot of systems.
Right, but if they're
usually not via Flatpak though.
No.
I off the top of my head, I couldn't tell you who ships with a Flatpak installed.
Yes, but probably more people use Firefox as a native package rather than
they come with
Flatpak.
no web.
Yeah.
Oh, it does.
Sorry?
Elementary doesn't package Firefox as far as I know.
No, they don't. They use GNOME Web by default, and then you can install Firefox by adding FlatHub if you like. So I think the Firefox and Snap numbers would be pretty clear indicators of how many people are actually using the thing.
But interestingly, the Firefox Flatpak, that number represents more than likely people that are going and getting that Flatpak on their own.
Intentionally, yeah.
Intentionally, yeah.
The Ubuntu numbers are just, it's on the system because it came with the system.
Right.
But Firefox on Flatpak, I would suppose there are very few distros actually shipping the Firefox Flatpak as opposed to, rolling their own Deb like Linux Mint does.
It's interesting that the Google Chrome Flatpak, because that's not actually made, I don't think, and that's another thing about this. It doesn't really, I don't know. I feel like, if you go to the GitHub page, you can kind of work out who are the people that are actually making this Flatpak.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta, I suppose, if you don't know how to do that, then maybe you shouldn't be screwing around with this stuff anyway. But it felt like it's always felt like, to me, like there should be a better connection on FlatHub to the people that actually, because here you look.
That was the whole point of this beta, and that's the whole point of the new interface.
Right, but you look at Google Chrome, you bring up Google Chrome, and you look at the top of the page. It says Google Chrome by Google. So I can see how people could assume that they are the people that are maintaining this Flatpak.
Well, you gotta look for the little check mark. That's I mean, right? Like, so just like on Twitter. Well, okay, less now than before, but like on Twitter, you had the verification system where you could have 3 people named Leo, but only the one with the check mark was the right one, because there was I don't know, maybe like a history of spoofing or something like that. But so now there's a mechanism in FlatHub to do that. So if you find that check mark, you can actually, it is the person that writes the software, or at least they're affiliated.
I think, and for the ones that are not, it probably underneath where it says like Google Chrome by Google or whatever, maybe say right there that this in some way or another that this Flatpak is not maintained by the official Google Chrome project or whatever. I don't know. Maybe I'm asking too much.
No. I think I know what you're saying. Yeah, and I agree. There
also,
should be...
to be fair, if you are downloading from your own distros repo, that is also not maintained by the developers of the specific program.
Right. See, I guess that's actually a pretty good point, right? Like most of the time, the packages on a distribution are packaged by the devs of the distribution, the maintainers, rather than,
I think it's fair to say the binaries are maintained by the distribution. Yeah, I guess I can get with that. So there's a lot of nuance in this concept, I guess, that you've got to consider when you're creating a opinion about packaging. I don't think we're ever going to stop talking about packaging. It's never going to be a one-stop shop for Linux, and we probably shouldn't want it to be.
Yeah, as far as Linux user experience goes, and not necessarily talking about just any user packaging, if not packaging, but installing packages from repos is one of the most central things to Linux.
Yeah,
because it's been
used to be. Well, now people use Ubuntu. Well, I guess they've always used Ubuntu, but for years, and they've moved to Snap. So
snaps are still packages. They are packaged, just differently.
Oh, okay. So snaps are the same as like repository apt installs.
I meant packaging in the broad sense of the term.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah, but I guess that's true across all the all the operating systems, right?
But the difference is that now Ubuntu can more more optimized. They have a more optimized method of maintaining several versions of their operating system. They don't have to worry about their tool chain changing and then the applications underneath it or on top of it not being able to keep up. They can just build the snap off of one tool chain and then do whatever they got to do to the underlying operating system. I get it. I get all that.
I don't even have to get it. I think what they're doing is great. They should continue to do Snap.
I'll also give them that Snaps have improved in the past year.
Yes, they have.
Most noticeably the startup speed.
Oh yeah.
And I think Snaps are fine. I just don't use them because I have no need for them. But my only problem with Snaps really is that they have to decompress, and not because of the time that takes, but the memory it takes. I would assume if a program is closed and it's still cached in memory, but if you need that memory for something else, and then the program gets kicked out of memory, then you would have to decompress it again and load it into RAM again. And you would,
the answer to that is just buy more RAM.
Yeah.
Well,
I've accepted that reality.
Or use like a fancy swap on a SSD or something like that, right? Like.
Not too long ago, I realized that my current Lenovo laptop has soldered RAM, 8 gigs, and I can't. I didn't really plan on upgrading it, but my previous Lenovo, which was also one of these foldables, had replaceable RAM, and now this one doesn't.
Oh, so it's like it's soldered, as in no open.
I mean, it's on the board. For some reason, I assumed that
this box is my previous as well.
Yeah,
but it's got an open slot where you can put one. Of the two in there.
Well, it's also an i3, 11th gen i3, so I don't think I would have to worry about upgrading the RAM. At one point, I might as well just replace the entire laptop.
See, now that is a terrible thing, and that's why you should buy a
framework. Yes, as soon as they have touch screens, I will buy one.
You can touch the screen all you want to; it just won't do anything.
Yeah, so I have 16 gigs in both my desktop and server. In the server, it's probably overkill because I don't use it for anything that intensive. But yeah, also in my old Surface Pro 3 tablet, there's 4 gigs of RAM, and I can use it with no swap. And I didn't create a swap because I wasn't sure how well the drive in it, the storage would take it. Allegedly, it's not an eMMC; it's a proper SSD, but I don't know how good it is because it's old.
It's probably an M.2, and if that's the case,
it's probably yeah.
I wonder if we're ever going to get to a point where storage gets so fast that we don't even need RAM anymore.
Okay, it's not true that I don't use swap on the tablet because Fedora sets up the ZRAM by default. Swapping to ZRAM.
I think Mint does too, or something I got running. No, it's Armbian on this Rock Pro created ZRAM by default, which I thought was kind of strange, but whatever.
But yeah, I just came to really accept that 8 gigs is the bare minimum nowadays, even if you're just using a browser, because right now I am using roughly half of my 8 gigs. I'm using 3.5 and also a fair bit of swap. I have quite a few tabs open on my browser. Also, speaking of Fedora...
Wait, we were speaking of Fedora?
Well, I mentioned Fedora. We were going to speak about Fedora, right? As a interesting turn of events, this cycle, Fedora actually released 2 days before Ubuntu, which I think hasn't happened for a while. They managed to hit their first target.
It was a week early.
Yeah, it was the 18th, I think. No, what day was it?
Yeah, they mentioned it in the write-up of the announcement. They say
it was
it's
Tuesday,
a week earlier than normal or whatever.
I think it was.
I've never paid attention as I've never compared them together. I've always just kind of looked at them separately in terms of their release cadence and all that.
Because on paper both are planned for an April release. Last 6 months ago, Fedora was a bit late because of the mitigations. Was it Polkit? What had to be? Something had to be patched, and they decided to just wait for a patch.
Yeah, I remember what the patch was for.
And the thing about Fedora is that it's so close to being a rolling release without being a rolling release, is that if I wanted to say something about my experience with Fedora 38 based on I think I updated 2 or 3 days ago, it's exactly the same as Fedora 37. Note that on my laptop I don't use GNOME, and usually one of the most mentioned features of Fedora is having the latest GNOME. And I use GNOME on my desktop, but I've yet to upgrade that because I wasn't sure about NVIDIA stuff.
Speaking of which, one thing that is interesting to me is that both, unless I'm wrong, Fedora and Ubuntu are both shipping Wayland by default at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Which
they have for years.
Does that include with people with NVIDIA hardware?
That I was going to say that I think Fedora started defaulting to Wayland on the NVIDIA drivers with Fedora 36, so about a year ago. And that was when the Gemmy Jellyfish LTS came out, and Ubuntu made the last minute they reverted the change because NVIDIA asked them to not default to Wayland on NVIDIA. So I don't know if since then Ubuntu has switched to Fedora.
So
Fedora, I'm tired, to Wayland on the NVIDIA drivers.
So it is NVIDIA holding up the process.
From an Arch user's perspective, it's working fantastic, even on KDE Plasma, and that's even running games on Steam. It's giving me frame rates that are just outstanding. OBS Studio works. The whole time I was down at the truck show, I was using OBS, not the Flatpak. I was actually getting the full browser version of OBS from the AUR. And like I said, running that with Wayland, it was stellar. So I think they're there because that's what I've got on that machine is the NVIDIA card.
And this would have been a year ago-ish that NVIDIA asked Ubuntu not to do that. So maybe.
I think
I know that for a long time, Upstream GNOME had a config that basically said, if using NVIDIA proprietary drivers, disable Wayland. It wouldn't even show up in the login manager where you would choose your session. They may have, because I know that when I was running Arch, I had to change multiple config files to be able to even have the option of Wayland to try it. And then Fedora just started exposing it, and they eventually switched. I mean, didn't switch because, when you install Windows, you have Wayland, and when you install the drivers, it would just default to Xorg. But it would still have Wayland in GDM. So you could just easily switch back. But that wasn't upstream GNOME's behavior for a long time. It might be now.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been using Plasma on that one that I'm using. Like I said, I think we're pretty much there. I'm not sure. One thing I've not tried, and it seems to be the last holdout, is remote screen sharing or desktop.
I'd say
remote desktop.
3 things. One of them is just desktop capture. The other one is rated as screen sharing, and also window sharing, because now you can do screen sharing. I'm not sure about GNOME, but on Sway you can do screen sharing because there's the XDG desktop portal WLR, and I can just, if an app supports it, not Discord because it's an outdated version of Electron, but in Firefox I can just share my screen into any website. The third thing is global shortcuts. Again, I'm not sure how GNOME handles them, but a few days ago I started using, being true to the absolute professionalism we usually have on this show, I'm running on a highly experimental setup right now. I decided 2 days ago to switch to and try 2 new things. One of them is Hyperland, which is like Sway. It's an independently built Wayland compositor, and they actually forked the WLR portal. So now there's an XGG desktop portal Hyperland, which is a drop-in replacement to the other one, but it has individual window sharing capabilities. So I assume it's just a matter of time until that gets upstreamed into the actual portal that is maintained by FreeDesktop. And because I couldn't comfortably get Hyperland onto Fedora because it's not in the repos, and I didn't want to have to add copper repos, I installed OpenSUSE Tumbleweed. I've been trying to give it a proper try, and I couldn't really figure out Zipper because it's different, but now I realize that it's different in a good way, and I probably would prefer it over both Pacman and apt.
That's interesting.
So it's probably becoming my second favorite package manager after DNF.
So what's it doing that's different?
They have these things called patterns, which are like groups, but they are a lot more elaborate, if that makes sense. And one thing that I couldn't figure out how to do is that if you remove something, then it won't remove its dependencies by default, and I had to go through a few Google searches, a few pages, to find the actual command for that. But the most notable difference is their very unique way of doing Btrfs and snapshots. I learned that on Btrfs, if you just mount a partition that has subvolumes on it and you open a file manager, of course you will see the subvolumes as they appear as directories. I knew that. But when I mounted my OpenSUSE partition on another system, it didn't show subvolumes, it just showed root, because apparently you can set a default subvolume on Btrfs that will be the default thing that is mounted if you don't specify anything.
Yeah, if you look in your fstab, you'll have
fstab.
you have -o and the options, and then subvol equals something. Now,
that's when you're typing it out manually and you're mounting something. But in the FS table, I'm going to say it all.
Okay.
You have it just you start with the UUID and then where you want it mounted, and then the file system, which is strange you have to put that in there, but anyway, then all of your options. Now with a Btrfs, one of the options you'll put is where like if I'm going to mount that to the root, I'm going to put subvol equals at root.
Yeah.
And then from the file system's perspective, that subvolume is the physical location, and then root is the arbitrary location where it actually goes.
As far as I can tell, if you enable snapshots, you check it in the installer, OpenSUSE doesn't actually put stuff, because they have a subvolume called at, because that's the standard. But then within that at subvolume, they create all the various subvolumes, the /var/boot/grub things.
Oh, so they do a nested kind of thing.
Root. Yeah, the nested thing is what I was most confused about, because then they would have within the at subvolume a snapshots thing, and within the snapshots there are just numbered subvolumes. Those are the snapshots, and what gets mounted as the root file system is the latest one of those snapshots, because when it takes a snapshot, it creates a new snapshot. The latest one is set as default. So as far as I can tell, your route, what is mounted as root, is not the at subvolume, but one of these snapshots. That was the most mind-boggling.
Yeah.
So basically, they have a completely file system level way of doing snapshots, but because that's not what I do that, but that's not the layout I want. I had to tweak it a little bit, and I had to even use Btrfs send and receive to get the layout that I wanted. But now I do.
Yeah, Btrfs, when you get into the subvolumes, it's kind of, you got to teach yourself to wrap your head around that new way of doing file systems.
I still don't know everything that it can do, because I always find something new. The
I've
incremental
never tried
backups,
nesting things like that.
Yeah, the incremental backups is one of those things where you create a snapshot and move it to a different disk, and if you create another snapshot, because the previous snapshot is present on both disks, you can just tell it to not move the entire new snapshot, just the difference.
Just like ZFS. ZFS does the incremental.
I never tried ZFS.
It's almost the exact same thing. I mean, you're just moving, because it's copy on write. It's got a sense of, on a block level, it's got a sense of the data that's already there and the data that it needs, and then it knows that, which saves the life of the device you're writing to. It saves, I/O cycles, whatever, and then it only writes what it needs. It only sends what it needs. Takes a fraction of the time that you would with something like rsync or whatever, and like I said, it makes your hard drives last a lot longer. Yeah.
The thing about that is, I really wanted to go all in on Btrfs, but my biggest external drives are NTFS because I use them under Windows. And the way I think I mentioned it, the way I managed to get Btrfs on Windows is just have the Btrfs partition mounted on my home server, and just use Assembler share to mount that on Windows. And
well, you're in luck, Norbert, because of the Btrfs on Windows project, which is on GitHub, and I'll link that in the show notes if I remember.
I think someone, maybe you played it before, but I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's fantastic.
It's
fantastic. It works great. You even get all of the same options. The way the Btrfs for Windows project handles it is you can click on the directory, and then you bring up the little, I don't know, the properties dialog on Windows. I'm doing a little Windows speak now, and
you can the options, how you want to compress it and stuff.
Yeah. So there's a tab there now that says Btrfs, and you bring that tab down, and you've got options you can enable and disable, like the compression, and you can even turn copy on write on and off per directory. A lot of options I kind of wish were in Linux, to be able to just click on stuff in the file manager and make changes. Like if I create, I don't know, a KVM folder with all my virtual machines on it, you want to turn off copy on write on that, because you'll be doing a double hit if you don't.
That might happen once more mainstream distros like Ubuntu switch to using Btrfs.
Yeah, and that actually works really well. Let me see. I'll find the website.
Is this the M.A. Harmstone Btrfs? This is the winbtrfs?
WinBtrfs, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks like you can install it via Chocolatey or Scoop, and to uninstall it's actually pretty simple. So wait, so you're telling me all I gotta do on a Windows machine is to install WinBtrfs, and I'm able to like reach into my Fedora partitions
Correct.
and pull stuff out?
Have you tried that, Bill?
Yes.
Are you using it?
I don't have any Windows machines anymore. I've got Windows virtual machines, but when I did,
But damn it, he's got Chrome.
I was using it because I put everything on a big hard drive, and I wanted to be able to manage that. And after a little bit of Googling, I came up with this, and by God, it does everything from what I could. It's even got Z standard compression, which is nice for either Btrfs or ZFS.
Yeah, level 1 Z standard is my jam.
Yeah.
What's interesting is throughout how many distros I tried, in each distro I picked up something, some practice. I use the standard one because that's what Fedora defaulted to, and it just worked so well. It's really fast, so I just kept using it on all my systems.
Yeah.
Another thing that comes to my mind is how I have my shell prompt broken into 2 lines. First line is name at host, then the path, and I have the input in the second line, because if your directory path gets so long, then your value input gets pushed all over to the other side of the terminal. So I just start typing and it shows up in a new line.
Yeah.
And that's what I picked up from MX Linux.
There you go, folks. Nice little trick.
Yeah. So
you heard it here first, everybody. Swap to Windows.
Yeah. No, swap to...
On Btrfs.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, swap to disk.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at this. Yeah, I know what you're...
That's
now
where your
I see what
tabs
you're
go,
talking
man.
about.
Yeah.
Choco install WinBtrfs. Yeah, what I do is I just download. It says version, and then
you can just download like an executable.
Yeah,
there's
at this point it might even be in Winget. I actually tried Winget a few days ago. I was curious, and I just did a Winget update, and it found updates to like a dozen different things on my system that I installed without Winget. So it was a pleasant surprise, and it just skips the next wizard for you. At this point, it's actually a very pleasant experience. At first, I wasn't sure because there wasn't many things packaged. It was kind of a Wild West feel to Winget, but now it's great.
Okay, so I see when you download the zip file from GitHub, you get you blow it up, you get an AR64, an ARM, an X64, and an X86 folder, and
well, you just right-click and install the Btrfs INI or whatever that is, and it just kind of handles it for you and picks up its own architecture and everything.
But
Windows isn't that bad, Bill. You don't gotta go that hard.
Well, I mean, if you go into the X64 folder, you've got a mkbtrfs.exe. You got executables, but you're right.
It handles all that. You install it with the, I forget if it's the INI or the INF, but you right-click on one of them and click install, and it just kind of handles it for you.
Does it just give a mount point letter for the partition, and then you have the subvolumes? Can you mount different subvolumes with different settings, like different compression?
Yeah. I mean, well, you're doing it Windows style, so you're just right-clicking on the the folder, the subvolume, as it will, and then you go to properties and then Btrfs, and then you've got all of the options right there in front of you that are available for that. It will show you.
You're gonna share screen this real quick, right?
Oh, sure, yeah. Except I don't.
Yeah, I want to see this
because I'm on Windows. But no, I mean you'll immediately see how it works. It's mindless. It's probably more simple than what we're used to doing when we're interacting with Btrfs. But I mean, yeah, folks, give it a try and let us know how you get on with it. Maybe I'll do a little tutorial video on a virtual machine or something. I wonder if I can install it in Wine. See what happens. Btrfs.ini.
I don't think Wine does the drivers, does it?
I don't know. Let's see what it says.
Yeah, because this is full on like installing a driver.
Oh, I don't have Wine on this system. Huh. But yeah,
I gotta try
no.
this too. That sounds pretty cool.
No,
I've got
it's
a Fedora
brilliant.
partition.
How
in
much
another
of
box.
how much of a hack is it? Because it being Windows, it's probably, I mean, it's a completely user space
If it's not
implementation.
NTFS, EXT, EXFAT or FAT32, 100% it's a hack. But that's everything, right? If it's not blessed by the Microsoft gods, then it's a hack.
I've used the XFS driver and then that silly little XT3 driver that you can get with the weird interface where it mounts things but it doesn't mount things or whatever. I never really got on with it all that well, but that was the go-to solution. And I would put this, in terms of usability and reliability, I would put this on top of all of those.
So can you, like, if you pop in a new flash drive or whatever and you want to format it Btrfs, can you do that in Windows?
I think so.
We got a lot of things
I know
to try.
that that's a good question, because I know you can create Btrfs. You can create like directories on a Btrfs drive, and you can create subvolumes with it. So I don't.
So what about a flash drive that already has Btrfs on it? If I plug it in, will it auto mount for me just the same?
I
as
think
it
so.
would
Yeah.
If it was...
Well, I mean,
Oh,
it would
man.
follow Windows rules for like auto mounting. If it's a
Sure.
and then once it does, then it does everything the Windows where it assigns it a letter and all that.
That's absolutely beautiful. So I can get away from exFAT, is what I'm hearing.
Yes. Yeah.
Huh.
Absolutely. And from the user interface perspective, unless you're messing around with the subvolumes and all that crap, like if you just had a flash drive, like for example, where you had a Btrfs, what I like to do is a Btrfs on root type file system where I don't mess around with partitions at all. It's just Btrfs on that device.
So when you're passing around the Btrfs flash drive or whatever, do your fingers get greasy, or is it
Yeah,
just,
a little
it's just
buttery,
regular
but
butter?
it's so tasty,
You can't
because it's real butter. It's proper butter.
Exactly.
It's
So I'm gonna have
fake.
to have like a garlic.txt in every Btrfs flash drive I have. Just
Fantastic.
make it a little tastier,
That's right.
And
Dangle
then
food in front of a
you gotta
fat
salt
guy's
your
face.
hashes. So a little salt in there too.
Boy, we could carry these analogies out all the way to the end of the show.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I think I haven't used it in a while, maybe about a year, just because I completely got rid of all my Windows partitions, because the things I was using Windows for could be just as easily done in a virtual machine. So I've been just kind of dealing with it that way.
Yeah, and it looks like they've got a couple of things that they need to do. FS Verity support. I don't know what that actually, but it came in kernel 5.15, so that's something that needs to be implemented.
Verity or
Verity, FS Verity. And yeah, because like when I read it the first time, and why I was going to bring it up is FS Verify.
That's what I thought.
And then after that, there's defragmentation. So you can defragment these Btrfs drives.
Yes, and that's another
cool.
thing. You can also turn auto defrag on and off.
So this is still listed under to do. So it's actually implemented then.
From what I could tell, the auto defrag was.
I wonder if it just doesn't do anything. Like there's a checkbox there, and you can check it, but it doesn't actually do anything.
But I mean, is that a big deal anyway? I don't know.
I think maybe when your flash drive is 6 years old, it's like, well, maybe it's time to clean it up. But if you format a flash drive, because I tend to get smaller ones just for little jobs, I'll format those things, man, 100 times in a month. I'm like, oh, new ISO, flash it.
Yep, and also because it's copy on write, it's not just. You're not just getting random bits. You're not rewriting everything all the time, so things are not getting moved around. So, I mean, there's some advantages there. I don't know.
Can you do the Btrfs send and receive and all those more?
That's another good
stuff
question.
on Windows?
That's something I never tried. That would be another cool thing to put into the file manager.
Yeah,
the answer
but this
is
is very, very much intriguing.
The
this
answer is
entire
yes.
Project.
It's on the page. It's on the GitHub page.
Subvolume send and receive is supported. Scrubbing is supported, trim is supported, Z standard supported, LZO compression,
great.
Z-lib
Btrfs
compression.
is working better on Windows than it is on Linux. That's
Don't you dare say that.
what an awful thing to say.
God.
But, I had to set that demon free, otherwise it would have ate me from the inside out.
Ah, buddy. Well, see, no, what you got to do is you just got to use a modern Linux, right? You can't still be on Ubuntu 2004 trying to use the most modern features of Btrfs. That's just not how it's going to work. So get on 2304, get on that lobster, baby.
Yeah, I'm going to be playing around with that this weekend at some point.
And you'll have all the Btrfs, man. All you need. Don't you add butter to lobsters? See.
Oh, you add the lobster to the butter is what you do, from what I can tell.
So lobster is just butter flavoring.
You dip the lobster in the butter.
It is a vehicle to get butter in your mouth.
You bet. Yes.
You have to catch them first. You might want to
I let somebody else do that.
Pull a pincer maneuver.
Yeah. I was gonna say, man, when I get them, they're in the little glass case in the water, man. So
you used to have those in the grocery stores around here, but they don't anymore. I don't know if it was scaring children or what.
Containerization.
Yeah, containerized lunar lobster.
I prefer to call them crescent crustaceans.
Oh, see we got to come back to C's, and then it can be a crescent crustacean, right? Because they kind of do that thing, right? Like they crescent shape sometimes. Well, you could just make it shrimp.
Well, at any rate, we're gonna probably try this Btrfs thing. I'm gonna try it. Here's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add it to my Windows 11 virtual machine, and then I'm going to create another volume.
That's what I'm thinking. I will have to create a virtual machine. I don't have a Windows virtual machine, and I don't know if I want to experiment with this on my bare metal Windows install.
It's mindless. You can get an ISO directly from Windows, and they don't care if you activate it. Is that what they call it? They don't care about that anymore. You don't get some personalization options if you don't activate, but it doesn't stop you from using it.
They just complain every now and then.
Every once in a great while. But
back in the Windows 7 days, they would shut you down after an hour. After an hour, just see ya. But now it's just hey, would you please activate? You can go dark mode. And,
you can either go light or dark mode. I think you've got like 3 or 4 choices as far as the look and feel of it, but you can't change your wallpaper. You're stuck with so what? And you can't do like fine-tune color changes or that, so you can just get the ISO directly from Microsoft and then make.
Hey, that's something Linux supports now, specifically Ubuntu. If you activate your Ubuntu, you get you can update image magic after the first 5 years.
So everybody thought I was nuts when I came on Discord and I started saying
nuts. That just was a separate issue.
Yeah, you don't know what you're doing, Bill. Okay, but it's not letting me update image magic until I sign up for Ubuntu Pro. So now I've got 2 devices on Ubuntu Pro. I wonder if that means I can. Well, I don't know. I got 3 more to go, and then I'll have to pay $400 a month or something, or a year.
No, you get 5 machines for free.
Right. Well, I'm using 2, so I've only got 3 left, or I'll have to use Debian or something crazy like that. I'll just do it on
Wait a minute.
Arch.
So you're upgrading?
Upgrading what?
To Debian.
Is that an upgrade?
Yeah, from Ubuntu.
Oh. I'm enjoying the Ubuntu. I can leave these things sit for months and nothing bad ever happens anymore. I shouldn't have said that. Boy, that's going to bring all kinds of bad juju on me.
We were just talking about getting hit by a buzz, man. We were just talking. So that's how you wrap this show up right here.
Yeah. Well, we didn't get to that, did we? I was going to try to steer back onto the self-hosting thing. I've not been able to figure out a good way to
As
continue
always,
that.
next time.
I should not have named that episode "Self-Hosting Part 1" because now I'm waiting on somebody to hit me with that.
No, you just name every episode Part 1. just dive into it, man. Just fully embrace the Part 1.
Part 1.
This is
episode
Fedora
1.
Part 1, and then we'll just keep running with it, right? But you never hit Part 2, never.
Yeah, kind of like some of these software projects out there that have been on version 0 dot something or other for like 20 years. I can't think of an example off the top of my head, but
see,
I know there's
they
lots.
have
Enlightenment.
standing
I think
because
Enlightenment is 0.20 something. Or 30
yeah, but
something.
when you hit 1.0, you're done. It's over. That's it. It's
Is
feature
that?
complete.
I mean, that it's an existential crisis at that point, right? Because
LXQt,
the thought is,
got to 1.2 in the past year.
oh,
You see, yeah. See, when you go to 1, it's over. You should stop. So, always keep it at like 0.99 point and then just run those numbers up.
That's how game releases used to be. You just make a game, put it on a CD, and sell it to people, and they play it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, exactly.
right? No,
You bought
it's
a full
only
game
the
and whatnot.
truly nerdy people that pay attention to things like that. Anyway, yeah, we'll get more into that maybe next time.
Maybe.
I want to give a quick shout out to Quick EMU, which I recently tried.
You're
I think
welcome, both of
yeah,
you.
yeah.
I forgot all about that. Yeah.
It's
So next time is going to be Quick MU Part 1.
Yeah,
And,
let's do
so
that.
stay tuned for
because-
that one.
Yeah, because
it's probably the easiest way to spin up virtual
Anything.
machines with QEMU on Linux.
I mean, you're
And
accepting
I
a lot of
tried-
somebody else's
yeah,
defaults, but you're
yeah. It
You can
supports Windows,
change
Linux,
them.
and
Yeah.
Mac OS though.
Come on,
And,
Bill. You can change them, and you know this.
well. For
It
my
will
part, it was the
probably-
easiest way to get Mac OS on a virtual machine.
Yeah.
Because,
Well, yeah.
And
so you
maybe
got to
also
accept
Windows.
those defaults.
yeah.
I will probably give it a try for a Windows virtual machine for this.
There you go.
Btrfs
Try out the
endeavor.
Btrfs driver thing on that.
Yeah. Speaking of Windows, have you heard about the Windows not activated watermark? Have you heard about the unsupported hardware watermark? When you get Windows 11, when you work around the Windows 11 installer's restrictions, because it won't let you install it on unsupported hardware, but
Hilarious.
you still manage to install it, you will get an unsupported hardware watermark.
Does it prevent you from changing your wallpaper though?
I have no idea.
That watermark.
Okay,
is
so
on
make
top
sure you
of-
turn off TPM in the Quick EMU thing so that it yells at you when you install Windows 11, and then you come back and you tell us.
Okay, yeah, well.
and then
But
find the
that's-
hack to turn off that
That's
watermark.
the nice thing about Quick
Right.
EMU. When you tell it you want a Windows 11 machine, it will download the ISO, and it will also by default emulate TPM, so it won't
Right.
complain.
And then you tell it.
I think
"No,
it would be
don't
really
emulate."
useful for if you were spinning up virtual machines that you had a specific purpose for it, and perhaps you weren't gonna keep it very long or whatever. It'd probably be a good use case for that. But I mean, I've never been successful in getting a Mac OS virtual machine running
Until
I
you
still don't-
followed my advice.
until I followed Leo's advice. Yes, yeah, I submit to that logic 100% because it just worked. There's a few things you got to do, just to kind of get around their way of, I don't know, obfuscating things from you, I suppose. It wasn't that big of a deal.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Just
yeah.
listen to
Quick
me,
EMU.
and I'll make your life easy.
And incidentally, too, the people that are part of that project, they've spun up. I'll give them a shout out. Why not? They've what's the word I'm looking for? It's a re-emergence of the Ubuntu podcast under a new name.
Oh, Linux Matters, yeah.
Linux Matters. It's Mark Johnson and
Martin Wimpress, I think.
Martin Wimpress.
Yeah, I believe that's his name.
And Popius.
Yeah, that's Popius, yes.
No, but I listened to episode 1, and I don't know, the theme music, take it or leave it. It's
They needed to bring back the old-timey little...
Yes. I was hoping they would. The little organ grinder thing they had.
No, it's more like stabs now. It's like, da-da-da-da-da, and that's it.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Well, I mean,
I should really check this one out because I never actually listened to the OG Ubuntu podcast.
Well, you missed out, man. It's good. You should go back and listen to some of
On
that
a
stuff.
related note, the Fedora podcast, which I also haven't listened to, but
that's
will
coming
probably
back?
start now. I think it's coming back from a hiatus.
It is. It is. I don't know if Grayson's still involved with it. I know he'd been running it for about a year and a half or whatever. But I know Matt DM. What's his name? That's his handle. But Matt, he's important. I can't remember his last name. But yeah, he and I think one other person are definitely going to be on. at least for the first episode. So we'll see how that goes. So that forthcoming.
It'd be
Fedora
really
podcast,
cool
man.
if we could get those people to do a shout out for Linux OTC on
Ho,
those shows.
ho.
But that's
Listen,
probably far more valuable.
I'm looking at the website, but for some reason, some websites are broken and the fonts are not showing correctly for me in OpenSUSE, which is interesting. I just mounted the same subvolume where I keep my Fedora Flatpaks, so I didn't install anything Firefox. I just mounted it and started using it. So I'm not sure if it's that. I've tried to install a bunch of fonts to maybe fix it.
OpenSUSE has weird font rendering. You got to fix it. Like you have to actually tell it.
Is it a thing? An OpenSUSE thing?
Oh, it used to be a thing in Fedora and they fixed it, but OpenSUSE still.
I installed Tumbleweed without Yast. Am I going to be in a difficult situation solving this?
You're screwed.
What?
I didn't even know you could do that. He
Hold on,
installed
wait. So you were on
Tumbleweed
Leap,
without Yast.
and then you went to Tumbleweed through Yast?
No, I just installed Tumbleweed, but in the installer you can just select and unselect package groups and patterns, and then just unchecked Yast.
Well, just install it.
Because when Yast works fine when you install it with GNOME or XFC or KDE, but when you just install it bare bones and put a window manager on it, Yast for some reason doesn't work properly. It will always open up a terminal window where it asks for your password, and then it opens up the GUI, and the terminal window stays open. So it was weird. So I was thinking maybe figuring it out, installing it later. But I can, and I have managed to install the TUI version of Yast. So maybe
easy,
I can use that.
Yeah, just use that.
Okay.
All right. Well, we better get out of here. LinuxOTC.org, everybody. Go there.
Hold
we
on.
got links on
linuxotc.org.everybody? That's a new TLD?
No, I said linuxotc.org, comma.
Oh.
Everybody.
I don't think you can use commas in URLs, so
yeah, me neither.
That's going to fail, I
Okay.
think.
linuxotc.org, everybody.
All right. There we go.
Go there. There's links on the homepage to what little bit of social presence we have, and then there's a link to the show's email,
Have you made progress on the creating a Telegram group?
I
imagine that is more.
Okay, you say make progress like it takes more than 12 seconds. Norbert, why haven't you done it?
Yeah,
that's a good question.
We were inevitably gonna go back to that. What I was wanting to happen, and it hasn't. And maybe I was unreasonable for assuming it, is that the community would kind of let us know where they would want to.
Listen, those 8
congregate.
people will let us know eventually. But,
you say 8 people, but we have
18. Okay, fine.
We have such a following now, and maybe I shouldn't say this out loud. But
don't do it. You're gonna jinx it.
Well, Red Circle has started monetizing us, so we are.
Do we get a cut of that?
As soon as money starts showing up, you will. But it also means that there's ads in the show, and I apologize for that. But they're not. They're fine. And the minute it's not
do you
fine,
at least get to pick where they come in? Because
yes.
Oh, okay. So it can
because the way it works is it'll put one in the beginning and then one after, one that nobody's going to listen to, because as soon as the ending credits start rolling, people just stop the thing anyway, unless they just let it play.
Can we also pick what ads are showing up?
We don't get to pick the simple ads that just kind of get added dynamically because
What are we hawking? I'm curious now.
Anything
Is it barbecue
from
sauce?
It made me choose. It made me set up this thing where, what kind of podcast are you? And I just put, technology, because that
you
is.
Should have chose cheese. Like, I'm good with
Well, and I can change it as time goes on, and I think that we've got a demographic that might be into this thing or that thing. But right now, the choices are really, really broad, really vague, and as close as I could get was technology. So we're getting like ads for apps or like general. It also goes by the demographic.
Wait, hold on. Are we? Man, I wish it was like a video thing, like where they would put that stupid Evoni game that doesn't look anything like what you're actually gonna play.
No, I won't do that.
It's like those little puzzles. No, we need those. Those are great.
It would be weird if we had stuff for like Microsoft Azure in the podcast.
Oh, 100%, dude. Yeah, that'd be great.
I have a very
I think
funny
we
story
would have
with
stuff like that on the audio only. Now Facebook
yeah.
is a separate thing altogether, or not Facebook. YouTube is a separate thing altogether, and we don't have near the performance on YouTube that we do on the audio only. I mean, we're in the thousands. Uh, in fact, I could tell you right now, we're several thousand downloads on the audio only.
People
And
listen to this show? I just came in here to hang out
I
with
told you
guys.
before, day one,
No.
the show outperformed.
Those are all bots. They're all bots. It's all bots.
We've made 69 cents.
Except for
so
B-Rad.
far.
Except for B-Rad Mac. He is real. He is very real.
We've
I
got
like him.
average episode downloads 855.
Unless he's a bot.
Total
B-Rad, are you?
downloads.
I gotta ask. B-Rad, are you a bot?
I'm never gonna tell.
It's you? You're
Total
controlling this.
downloads 4,558. So
No, all bots. I don't believe it.
it's
It's all Bill.
Yeah, it's
No,
Bill.
it's all
It's Bill
Leo.
testing the feed.
No, I was gonna say, like, Bill's like, why is my battery performance so terrible? And then it's because he's downloading the podcast.
So
4,000
interestingly, I thought, because as far as money goes, we're getting paid by how many times the ad gets downloaded, right? So I thought, what's to stop me from making a script that just creates this loop of downloading, the MP3.
Surely they do some kind of.
They absolutely do,
rudimentary
because you
checking.
try to download something from the same. I don't know if it's going by MAC. Now, if it's going by MAC address, I can spook. You can make a script that'll spoof a MAC address.
IP maybe, not Mac. That's too local.
Well, Mac changer will change your MAC address.
Oh no, it certainly will, but they don't necessarily get that information on their end.
Okay, well then you can spoof an IP address just as easily.
Easy. Let me
And
just fire
so,
up the VPN real quick.
I don't know if it's
1,000
that simple.
downloads.
But I could just
Bill,
let a script run 24 hours a day, just keep downloading.
You mentioned dynamic ads are dynamically added to the episodes.
Yeah.
I have a funny story with that. I was listening to Marcus Brownlee's Waveform podcast, and one day I just downloaded the latest episode and I clicked play, and I started getting ads in my ear in Deutsch, and I was confused, and I realized that I forgot to turn off my VPN on my phone that was set to Germany. So it just injected some German ads into my episode, which was
we need to do our
funny.
own ads. Like we need to do like a WinBtrfs ad later.
Oh, you
Now
mean
you can
a
still
segment where we, let's say, focus on something.
No.
Yeah. Well, but I already focused on QuickEMU.
Good.
Well, we got to get those people to pay us to talk about their stuff.
Nah, I'll do it
That's
for free. They're cool.
When it comes to open source projects, I'll do that all day long. No, the ads are not a big deal. They're small, and they're for three
They're not a
fat
big
truckers.
deal to you, Bill. You don't listen to them.
Well, I do, because I
Oh,
listen to
okay.
because it plays before the beginning of the show, but they're fine. They're proper professional ads.
How long are these
for-
ads?
Huh?
How long are they?
Oh, just I don't know, maybe 15, 20 seconds.
Too long. Remove it.
I mean, but they're for three fat truckers, you might, because that's a different demographic. We'll get ads on there for Home Depot and AARP and stuff like that, which is
Wow,
insurance.
that's telling.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it is what it is.
Can you sign up for AARP at Home Depot? That is a good question.
I mean, they're two separate ads, but then no two people are getting the same ads either.
Right.
If you go and you listen to it on iHeartRadio, you're going to get one set of ads, and then somebody else will get another. They're just kind of cycling through it. I don't know how much intelligence they're putting into that, but I do know that's what's happening.
All I'm saying is we're doing people favors. If you listen to our show and you get abs, dude, do you know what kind of dieting and exercise you have to do to get abs?
Right.
That's
We're
insane.
just skipping the middleman. You could look like this
Boom.
in
Abs
no time.
installed.
So anyway, go check out the website. Thanks, babe.
You're welcome.
And my wife.
I am his wife.
LinuxOTC.org. Email the show, linuxotc@proton.me. Let us know what you think.
Well, now that we have ads, we got to have like a real one, right? We gotta have, like,
The problem is there's no way to know what ads are going to be playing. So I don't know.
No, I mean we got to do the domain thing with the Proton and so it can be LinuxOTC at linuxotc.linuxotc.com. You know.
Oh yeah. Well, see, my first goal was to start hosting email, and then when I started getting into that,
No,
well, because you can do it with
get a domain
Docker
and pay someone to do it. No,
you can do it with Docker, and as long as you're not, I mean, you can have some relative success with it, but
if you have if you have a plan with Proton, you can add your domain and just use their mail servers. Yeah, I do that, and it's pretty
I don't know if
smooth.
I'm actually pointing at Norbert on the video, but
we're paying Proton, so
yeah. So you just
probably
we already have the domain.
We do.
We do.
I have no excuses. If somebody would start emailing the show, then maybe it'd be worth getting
I'm
into.
gonna just start emailing the show.
Just start sending me crap all the time now. Yeah, I probably.
You heard it. You heard it. Sign him up for like catpics.com. Go ahead, just the news feed and everything.
The videos. I like the videos, especially the ones that do cat food. I about said cat food. I don't have a cat of my own, so I have to watch and live vicariously through other people.
Understand.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we've been at this too long. Anyway, look us up. Follow us. Tell us what you think. We love you all. We'll be back in 2 weeks. Until which time, I've been Bill.
I've been Norbert.
I'm Leo. I'm still that guy.
See you, folks.
You're immutable.
The Immutable Leo.
Oh, that's it.
Killer.